Good afternoon. It's great to see you all, and thank you for coming today. And also, I would like to extend my gratitude to the organizer of this meeting for inviting me. My name is Jasa Adi Mulia, and I'm responsible for the economic analysis at Philips Sekuritas Indonesia. As you can see on the screen, our topic today is Indonesia Economic and Market Update for the third quarter 2023. We kick off our presentation by discussing growth in the second quarter this year because when we did our presentation in mid-July, the data was not available because it hadn't been released by the government. And then also we would give you our forecast for the third quarter. And in the second part of the presentation, we will give you an update about the Indonesia equity market and also our projection for this year. Okay. Indonesia economic growth in the second quarter accelerated to its highest rate in the 3 quarters, shored up by strong household and government spending, even as exports weaken with falling commodity prices. Indonesia's economy expanded 5.1% year-on-year in the second quarter, accelerating from 5.04% rise in first quarter. Household consumption, which make up about half of the GDP, expanded 5.23% year-on-year. This is the quickest pace since third quarter 2022, and defying the impact of higher interest rate, still elevated inflation, and also commodity slowdown. This resiliency was due to rising household spending for the Muslim fasting month and also the festivities surrounding the Eid al-Fitr in late April and also school holiday in June. Growth in the investment more than doubled to 4.63% as the government expedited construction of roads and irrigation system ahead of the end of President Jokowi's final term in 2024. Many project was speed up, including the construction of the new capital city and also the newly launched high-speed railway. If you look at this chart, direct investment realization rose 6.3% Q&Q, or jump 15.7% year-on-year in second quarter. Foreign direct investment grew 5.2% Q&Q and 14.2% year-on-year, while domestic direct investment increased 7.6% Q&Q. For the first half, direct investment realization surged 16.1% year-on-year, or 48.5% from the target for the entire 2023. Trade growth continued to moderate. If you look at the trade balance, it's slightly lower than the previous year. It's because the fading commodity prices. Also, exports in second quarter contracted 2.75% year-on-year, in stark contrast to the growth of more than 10% in the first quarter. Trade surplus in the first 8 months 2023 stood at $24.3 billion as export fell 11.85% and import dropped 7.8%. year on year. From fiscal standpoint, fiscal stand has normalized, reflecting faster fiscal consolidation, anchored by a broad-based rise in revenues and prudent public spending. If you look at this chart, the diminishing deficit budget create a lower debt to GDP ratio, yeah. And if you look at the next chart, you can see that there is some sort of devaluing happening both in the private sector and also in the government. External debt gradually decline in line with fiscal consolidation. And in August, the government released the 2024 state budget plan with the theme of accelerating inclusive and sustainability economic transformation. This economic transformation is important because it aims to lift Indonesia out of the middle income trap and into high income country. As you can see here, this budget plan has a short-term policy focus. For example, it's inflation control, eradication of extreme poverty, reduction of stunting prevalence, and also increased investment. And this is the macroeconomic assumption that the state budget is based on. If you can see that economic growth is projected increase to 5.2 by the government from 5.1 this year. Inflation going down to 2.8, and exchange rate also improved slightly. For this year, if you we think that the economic growth of 5.1 is achievable, and also inflation 3.1 is also achievable. But exchange rate is also doable, yeah. If you look at the latest exchange rate, it's not far away from the 1500 rupiah. So for the 2024, we think that the assumption is also quite realistic, yeah. Although 5.2 for the next year, it's a little bit high, yeah, because if you look at the latest report from IMF, revised down the global economic growth, yeah. So it's still doable for next year to achieve 5.2% growth. In the balance of payment, the current account recorded a narrow deficit against a backdrop of lower international commodity prices and global economic moderation, coupled with increasing the domestic demand. Yeah, so meanwhile, thanks to support from direct investment, the capital and financial account posted a manageable deficit in line with elevated global financial market uncertainty. If you look at this chart, portfolio investment and other investment recorded deficits due to the impact of increasing global financial market uncertainty, as well as payment on maturing foreign loans and global bonds. Current account also affected the exchange rate of IDR against USD, and in this chart you can see that portfolio investment also has a correlation with return on the equity market. And Now we're gonna talk about monetary policy. Bank Indonesia held its interest rate unchanged at 5.75% for the eight consecutive time in September, confirming market expectation and saying that the current policy decision is enough to keep inflation control within the targeted range for this year and for the next year. With inflation trending downward, and the Bank Indonesia maintaining its policy rate unchanged, the real interest rate soared to 3.47% in September. This is the highest level since March 2019, when it reached 3.72%. However, higher real rate was unable to draw yield-hungry investor as we would see in the later slides, and it looked like the transmission of monetary policy well received here in bond market. We can see from the yield of the 2-year Indonesian government bond, and also from the corporate bond sectors, and also in the banking sector, because the steady policy rate create some stability in the growth of bank lending, and also keep cost of borrowing quite cheaper for the investment grade bond. Inflation pressure, Indonesia headline inflation rate dropped to 2.28% year-on-year in September. It is the lowest inflation rate since February 2022. The inflation rate remained within Bank Indonesia target of 2% to 4% for 5th consecutive month. Core inflation slowed to 21 low of 2% in September. We expect inflation to remain muted since we have not found any price pressure both at producer level and at a wholesale level that can be translated into higher inflation rate in consumer level. Yeah, if you can see in this chart, the producer price index also move in a downward trend, and also in the general wholesale price index also move in tandem, in fact, with the headline CPI. So we do not see any pressure from the producer or from the wholesale. So we are quite certain that the inflation would remain low for the rest of this year. Despite we see some spike in some food stuff, yeah, like rice, or spike in the fuel price in the gas station. Even the depreciation of rupiah against US dollar failed to trigger acceleration in headline inflation. We do not see any pass-through from the depreciation of rupiah to the inflation in consumer level. But the yield on the 10-year Indonesia government bond, which is associated with inflation expectation, exhibited a small uptick here, yeah, in this chart. This is mainly as a result of foreign capital outflow in the bond market, not because we are expecting a higher inflation rate in near term. Therefore, although we believe Bank Indonesia would maintain neutral bias until the end of this year, there is a small chance that Bank Indonesia would raise interest rate by 25 basis point, in line with its Taylor rule-based target to 6% to rein in the capital outflow if attack on the IDR persists, yeah, because So far, Bank Indonesia has been using foreign exchange reserve to defend rupiah, but now the foreign reserve has been depleted. So I think the next step is to use interest rate to guard against to guard the rupiah against any speculation. And talk about the rupiah, our fair value estimate indicated that IDR is currently undervalued against US dollar, despite no deterioration in investor risk perception about investing in rupiah-denominated asset. If you can see here, the rupiah currently traded quite high above its fair value, even though there is no spike in CDS, Indonesia CDS. That's because there is massive amount of foreign capital fled from the Indonesian government. From this chart, we can see that especially in the last 2 months, foreign investors frequently sell off Indonesia government bond whenever volatility in the US equity market jump. You can see from here, if the fixed jump, there is a massive selling in the Indonesia government bond. And in this chart, foreign ownership on the Indonesia government security dwindled to just about 14.95% of the total outstanding Indonesian government securities per September, far from its peak, which is around 40%, which is happened in before the pandemic. So yeah, the drop is very dramatic, but the good thing about this is that it means that the yield on the Indonesia government bond less prone to the movement in the global investor sentiment, because the lower ownership of the foreign investor in the government bond. So the volatility of the yield would reduce significantly. And for the growth projection for the third quarter, we are of the opinion that the economy is in the late cycle of the expansionary pace, as growth in third quarter would likely to moderate and approach its long-term trend. We predict that the economy would grow between 4.9 and 5.19% this quarter, because we saw many economic indicators such as retail sales and consumer confidence index, and also manufacturing PMI as well as inflation stable for a short period of time before reversing to the downside. And how close the current output is to the economic long-term potential output, assuming that the GDP growth 4.9, the output gap is inching back toward zero. If you look at in this chart, the output gap is approaching zero, and from the production utility capacity, it's almost it's close to full capacity. We consider 80% is full capacity, so it now stands around 75%. So we do not see any ample room to accommodate pent-up demand. And in this chart, the gap between consumer expectation index and present situation index tend to be lower when consumers recognize that the economy does not have as much room to improve in the coming months. This is a good indication that things are as good as they get. So consumers see that this present situation is good, but going forward, they would not see that it is possible to be improved significantly. So, in other words, the economy is at its peak, yeah. And also, if you look at the year spread between the 2-year Indonesian government bond and the 10-year Indonesian government bond, they move in line with the spread between consumer expectation index and the present situation index. So and we see that the yield start to move upward, yeah. So it indicates that the year between consumer expectation and present situation would also increase in the coming months. And if you look at this chart, yeah, we predict that the economy would grow between 4.9 and 5.19. Yeah, it's corroborated by this data because if you look at the data, according to this, the GDP also would grow at the identical pace with the pace in second quarter. Manufacturing is important because they play a very significant role, yeah, along with the service sector. In fact, in 2022, they have the same share, 43% of the total economic activity, and the rest is from the agriculture. And the manufacturing PMI for Indonesia decreased to 52.3 in September from August 53.9, which is the highest in 21 months. Yeah, jadi so this decline is normal. This is indicated this is the 25th straight month of expansion. So of factory activity. So we believe that in the next a couple of months, manufacturing activity would tend to gradually decline, even though it's still in the expansion territory or above 50 threshold. And this is the projection for the 2023, yeah, our projection compared with other financial institution. It's not much different, yeah. Basically, it's around 5%, yeah. So yeah, so we did it in December last year, and we do not make any changes so far because we believe, our projection still remain achievable, yeah, for this year. And we now go to equity market. If you can look at this chart, since 2001, the Jakarta Composite Index has only experienced 3 major market correction, which is in the shaded area. We feel that the bullish run remain intact, yeah. The long-term bullish trend remain intact, as we treat the flat performance since July 2023 as consolidation pace to continue the uptrend. So yeah, we view this as a consolidation pace to move even higher in the coming months, or maybe in the early next year. And this chart shows that the MSCI Indonesia has outperformed the MSCI emerging market and MSCI Asia excluding Japan since 2007. In fact, from this point on, the MSCI Indonesia has moved in different direction from the MSCI emerging market and the MSCI Asia excluding Japan. And from this chart, we can see that the best performing sector in the first 9 months of 2023 were transportation, material, consumer non-cyclical or consumer staples, and also surprisingly infrastructure, while the worst performing sector are technology, healthcare, and energy. And in terms of thematic investing, from this chart we can see that investment style quality beats growth and value, but from the thematic investment stock that possesses unique characteristics such as social or environmental impact, low volatility, higher dividend yield, and state-owned enterprise outperformed the broader market in 9 months of 2023. And now compared bond has been outperforming equity since 2018. Bond is reflected by the Indonesian Composite Bond Index, while the equity is proxied by the Jakarta Composite Index. You can see from this chart that in the couple of last year, 2 or 3 years, the bond outperform equity. And if you break down per year, this year bond again outperform equity after in 2021 and 22 equity beat bonds thanks to the post-pandemic rally. In the first 9 months of 2023, bond generated 5.91% return, in here 5.91% return, far superior than the 1.3% gain made by stock in the first 9 months. So the gap is very wide. Right now, stocks are cheap relative to bonds, reflected by the bond earning yield ratio atau BIR that have hovered below one since October 2022. And stock also inexpensive, if you compare with its historical valuation, which is below its long-term average. From this chart, we are detecting that investors are more willing to take on risk, reflected by the lower ratio of the price of a 20-year Indonesian government bond divided by the Jakarta Composite Index. Also, the Consumer Confidence Index usually improve in 4th quarter as investors are entering a new year with optimism. So we expecting better performance from the stock market in the 4th quarter. And in this chart, you can see that the market volatility is poised to rise, as it's because it already sits near its lowest level in more than a year. So it's a very poised to move higher sooner or later. And it is critical for the JCI to close the month this month, yeah, above 9,000, 6,900, or to stay above 10-month moving average, to lay the groundwork for breaking through psychological level of 7,000 in the coming months, yeah, because it seems that it's very hard to break through 7,000 level for JCI this year, yeah. So if the JCI finish this month above 6,900, we believe that our target would for the year would be achieved, yeah, because we predict that for the baseline, the JCI would reach 7,400, and for the worst 7,100. But for the sector view, in the fourth quarter, we overweight consumer staples, industrial and technology, and underweight financials and real estate, yeah. So yeah, if the Jakarta Composite Index would finish this month above 6,900 or even in 7,000, it would certainly make sense to predict that the JCI would finish in our best case scenario in 7,400 or in 7,100 as a worst scenario. And if you look at the track record in the October, the average return is 2.62, yeah, and the average in December is 2.66%. So if these records continue this year, we believe that the 7,400 level would be met by the JCI by the end of this year, because in November usually it's a weak month, yeah, for the JCI. So we're hoping these 2 months would produce solid performance as in the past, yeah, in order for our projection to be realized. I think that's it from me. We are giving back to you, Rasan. Thank you.
Hi, Asa. Yeah, so now we'll do the Q&A. Right?
Okay.
Yep. So you can answer questions from the Q&A. I believe there's only one. Take it away. Thanks.
Yeah. Question is, you gave an overweight for technology. Can you give a short update on GoTo and what their prospect in the next 2 or 3 years? Yeah, we overweight technology because let me see. Yeah, in this chart, you can see that it's already ini ya, the performance is actually improving for the sector, yeah. So we think the momentum would be carry on toward the end of the years, because the last year they perform poorly, and this year not so poorly. It means that there is some type of positive momentum in the sector, yeah. So for the short term, at least for the until the end of the year, I believe the technology sector would decrease their loss. Yeah. So it's a good choice for the short-term strategy. For the prospect of Gotoh in the next 2 or 3 years, it's quite difficult, yeah, because as a startup, they can go to any business, yeah, because they started as a transportation, and then they enter the financial service with the GoldPay, and then the marketplace with acquisition of Tokopedia. So it's kind of difficult to guess in the future where they would what business they would add to their portfolio to produce sustainable profitability. Next question is specific. Are there any specific ideas counter to pay attention to? Let's see. Maybe for consumer staples, yeah, or industrial, yeah, because as you can see, the downstreaming of mining industry would also improve or have a positive impact on the industrial sector. So I think and also the growth for next year, although it's slower than the growth this year, but we believe that industrial would still play important role, yeah, especially sectors that have a correlation with infrastructure, yeah, because you see the government in its last year governing, they must complete their some of the projects next year. So that's why we overweight industrial. But for the consumer staple, I think it's has something to do with El Nino, yeah, because many commodities, especially food commodities, would have disruption maybe in supply, yeah, if the dry season is too extreme or the rainy season is too extreme. So yeah, next question is, let's see. Can you comment on PT Comfit Tbk? Oh, Java, yeah, Java. I think it's in a good position after they acquiring Sogut, yeah, because from that acquisition they entering the processed food segment, which is from the price of standpoint, it's more stable, yeah, than only selling broiler chicken or the animal feed. So I think it gives huge contribution in the next few years, yeah, as consumer preference would shift, yeah, from especially in the urban area to the processed food, which is you don't have to cook, you just have to maybe microwave it, yeah. So yeah. Next question is, how about the projection of green energy stocks such as PGO, Brand, Arco, and Kin? Yeah, we see that the green energy, namely the renewable energy, in the next few years would see increased growth, yeah, tremendous growth. In fact, because the environmental impact or we have net zero objection, yeah, from the global community. So the need for renewable energy, of course, would jump, but the investment in the sector is still small, yeah, and the liquidity of the stocks in the market maybe is not as liquid as other sectors. Maybe yeah, if you hold this renewable energy stock for the long term, I think it would give superior return for the long term, yeah, maybe over 5 years, because right now these companies are busy building their plan, yeah, to meet the demand in the futures.